Mike, we're glad you're here too, but I was looking for the other one.
Fair enough. Thanks.
I would entertain any public comment at this point. If you'd step forward to the podium and state your name and address, please. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Any comments, questions on the claims list? How about the financial reports? Have a new format.
Yes. So previously, we had been reporting on a cash basis only. So this report reflects our accrual-based accounting reporting format. And we had Adam provide a little input on this too. And we actually have tweaked it a little bit since the report went out in this packet, and we'll continue to kind of update and tweak that. So just to kind of give an overview of the new report format. One of the things that we updated, we'll look at the first page, for example, that shows Fund 600, which is the water operating fund. You'll see our current revenues and expenses based on our budget, and then the current period, and then the actual to date. And then the percent of budget over there in the very right-hand column, you should expect to see that at about 112 or 8.3% of budget. So the percentages that are shown in that column shows year-to-date compared to budget. So those should stay pretty consistent as we move forward month to month. I will point out, and we've noticed this in the past, like revenues for electric and water services fluctuate a little bit based on seasonality. So you may see that percentage a little above or below what you would expect to see as we go forward.
So this is representative of the first month of the year.
Correct. So this is
All of
July.
July.
Yep, July 2022, which is the first month of our new fiscal year. Okay.
So the next month, we should see twice as much,
That's right.
like 14% next
Yep.
month. Okay.
And I can provide some notes to that effect too as we go forward, just to kind of remind you what you should expect to see as far as percent of on those items.
I think that your overview is fine. We don't
Yeah,
need
I mean,
to
Okay.
show them.
Okay, we did break out, on Adam's suggestion, we did break out service sales, so water service, electric service, and then fiber service, which obviously is sale of water, sale of electricity and fiber services. We did break that out for the other total revenues there.
So what would be considered other water revenue?
Things like meter fees and that sort of thing.
Any kind of assessments.
Yes.
We did probably the big one that's consistent. We treat sales tax as revenue. I mean, it's other revenue, so we have sales tax revenue and matching sales tax expense. That's a biggie in water.
So being offset, I mean.
Yeah.
And then the beginning fund balance and ending fund balance, actually we changed that to a reflect net position, which is based on our accrual accounting. And that is basically all of our assets, less depreciation and our liabilities. So net position, you'll see that going forward, the beginning net position and then the ending net position. And the surplus deficit is the difference between the revenues that we're getting.
So is it unusual that we have a negative deficit?
It's not unusual. I did look at August and that flips to a positive for the current period.
Other expenses that hit at the beginning of the year.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So we pay all of our insurance premiums and those sorts of
Okay.
things up front. So that's a big piece of that.
Thank you.
Yes. Then cash on hand is actually the cash balances for each fund. For electric, water, and fiber, I put the O&M, capital, and then your reserves kind of all in this one section here. And that was kind of another suggestion of Adam's, is if we could get like all of the water information, all of the electric information, all the fiber, and so on one page. So we're down to like a 4-page report. So I'll work on that formatting and see if we can't get that for the August report. Then we have our cash on hand, number of days cash on hand. We've talked a little bit in the past Our goal is about 110 days, to keep 110 days cash on hand. And so and I can put that note in there too for comparison, just as a reminder. so we're
That
going
might be
forward.
good. So
Yeah.
remember that. And is it 110 days for each of the services? I can't remember.
Yes, yes. And I was asking Chris about that this afternoon and 10 days. This may be getting into another discussion, but our bond rating, we're at like an A minus. And I think our recommended number of days on hand is like 90 to 120. So we've got 10 days of cash on.
Anything on the water report that you thought was unusual for this time? And this is about what you would have expected to see.
I think about what we expected to see except for the fiber, like on electric and water, as far as service sales. Just a reminder, that would be the time period of May 15th to June 15th. That's the actual usage period. And then we bill those services on July 1.
So that's for fiber only.
For fiber, we actually bill ahead, right?
Oh, so you said that was for water and electric.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I missed
And
that.
fiber stays pretty consistent. You don't see that seasonality because the charges are what they are.
Right.
It's not based on usage. But we will continue to format this and get it a little more concise. And anytime anybody wants to see the detail behind these numbers, we have to provide those to them.
You mentioned the other suggestions that I have, but the one that you didn't mention is comparison to prior year.
Yes, yes, I did have that as a
Adding-
note too. Yeah, so we'll
Adding
try to get,
information from the prior year just to see how we're comparing this year to last year.
yes. So July of last year, for each month going forward, we'll throw that in for comparison. So we can kind of see where we're at this year.
One caveat we have on that is last year was a little more cash basis, and so you might have a little bit of reporting differential. for the
We might
prior
just
year.
make that note on the report. I think it's a really good practice going forward. And if we look back and say, why is this year funky? We'll know that's the year you converted.
Yeah, so this will only be an issue for this year as we're going forward. Those differences will wash out, but there might be some hiccups here and there that you'll see because of that.
Other questions or concerns? Should we take a quick look at the electric? Well, or I guess administration is up next.
So the administration, the revenues there basically are the transfers in that we get from the other departments in the city. In and out of Washington.
Okay, and then electric. Any questions? We do have that cash on hand to be 308 days here. That's that's why I was asking if it was, our goal was 110 for each of the services.
I'd say mine's probably lopsided because of that capital right now. We're
Okay.
trying those 4 rates and things like that to come on.
Also, I guess I wanted to mention like the operational data that we put below that shows the kilowatt hours billed and the number of gallons sold. And I threw August in there because we had those numbers. And I can keep those as up to date as possible if you guys would like to see that rather than just reporting on July and then August. I think it's kind of nice to see, because here we are in September. So
If you have it, I wouldn't, I mean, we don't have it on the water, right? Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, I think particularly in the water, there's probably some good information. You'll see the July sales were much lower on water than you might have expected, but it bounced back and the first 2 months of each year are very similar to each other. So, I mean, again, kind of reflective of that there is some seasonality and weather patterns that affect those usages. That's a good example where we had a light July billing but much heavier August usage bill for.
Look from last year. Our July, August information is the other way from last year. July and July is lower than August.
Just takes a few rainy days and then people put water in it, you know, it gets a little chilly there. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, actually, you hear lawnmowers on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on the fiber report? And again, we're at a 0 day of cash on hand because of our position at startup, right?
Correct.
Okay, just good with that, or any more questions? How about the minutes from the last board meeting? Questions or comments?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving ahead to electric utility action items. Discussion and direction regarding the support for the CMPPA investments to an additional transmission investment. Who's gonna kick that one?
I'll take that one. In about 2010, well, starting in 2006, but officially we signed on and made an investment in the CMPPA group in 2010. That group was formed from the Central Municipal Power Association, Power Provider Association. They were seeking to, investments in transmission. So we were, in 2010, we joined as a 3.34% partner in that organization. We probably haven't seen or heard much of them. We may have some earnings that show up in those other electric revenues. Not huge overall, but it has been a good cash producing investment for us. That group wants some enhancements to those transmission lines. They are proposing to use $2.2 million of their cash on hand to add a second conductor to those transmission poles. They originally engineered for a two-pronged approach. They saved a little money when they first installed it. They want to upgrade those and add some more capacity. And they have asked for consideration and support from the trustees, that they will take that to their board and pursue that $2.2 million of additional investment. Now, we are a 3.34% owner, so if you guys choose to say, no, we don't want to be involved in this, you could easily be outvoted and it still go through. I do think that this is a good idea, a good support. They are using the cash that they have on hand, so we won't need to actually write any check or provide any financial support. They're going to take, and I did the math, we would have about $73,000 if they kind of folded up and distributed all cash. We'd be talking about $73,000 of IMU funds at that 3.34% that they're considering using for that upgrade. So I think that probably is good for scale on what we're talking about, what could be ours. Transmission is a pretty volatile market. Those investments do have a statutory return of 10%. Going to be probably tough to get that elsewhere. And so I do think, and my recommendation is to, for kind of get a unofficial nod of support for taking the cash on hand, again, not out of our pocket, for CMPPA to use their cash on hand to do that additional transmission investment. And
So
we'll see
Chris-
returns in the future.
Sorry. What period of time do you think the payback period will be?
At a little over, I think last year's MISO transmission payback was 10.02%, if I remember correctly. Yes, that, I mean, that would be a 10-year payback on that. It's varied between high 8s and 10. So I said 9 years, or 9% to 11 years, so 10, 11 years for payback on that.
What was the original investment in 2010? Do you know?
I don't know.
And roughly how much income do we get each year?
Well, it's $3,500. But that's quarter. I think it's $3,500 quarter.
I can get back to you on that. I don't-
It's not huge dollars.
Yeah, it's not huge dollars. So
Chris, when did you say we initially invested?
2010. So there were some discussions. I had some emails and other information. They started the process of joining in 2006, 2007, late 2010 and early 2011. They signed contracts.
I don't have any concerns on for us to do. All right, moving on to the electric utility informational items, Mike.
Sure. Terminate controls or continue to move forward with that. Hopefully, just lots of good work getting that all done. But October 24th, that board meeting, hopefully we'll have that, bring that forward to send the bids out around that time. Continuing on terminate the nozzles that were, I think the last meeting, we were hopeful to finally get hold of GE, proprietary. They finally did get back to us. We did order those. Hopefully we'll get those maybe this week, possibly next, but as soon as they get, we'll change the ones out and get that up and going. And they were not cheap. We ordered 6 and they're 2,000 piece. So, but you're talking an $8 million piece of equipment. So. And then the only other thing I just bring up, let you know, may have seen it out there. We are advertising currently for a tennis lineman. The one that was here, he's been here about a year. Ended up going to CFU, which is very close to home. That's what we're using. So, talked very highly. He really was a vote. So anyway, we've got that out and we're starting to get some applications in. So hopefully next week.
When was Tyler's last name?
A week ago, Friday. But that's all.
Water utility information.
Yeah, we had a tough week. We had 5 main breaks, Labor Day out all day on one that started in a parking. We dug it up and we chased it into underneath the street. So we had to take out street and it was a deep, almost 10-foot deep, which is very unusual, but there was what you call a critical crossing where, the sewer was at the same level and has to stay that level, and they dipped the water main down underneath it, and we had to go down after it and fix it. Then this weekend, we had 4 more. So it's just this ground shift. We joined the list of utilities that are down the Jordan Aquifer that we had a slight drop in our static water level down in the Jordan Aquifer. It keeps dropping. So we're going Pella, Knoxville, Pleasantville, Altoona, West Des Moines, Mason City, Fort Dodge. Several cities have noticed a significant drop in the Jordan, but we hadn't been so bad. And now we're getting down to where we're dropping to where we're, especially the big well at the plant. We're looking in with the well company to probably have to pull that well and lower it down. We're looking at.
Lou, is it because of the drought?
Well, it's the Jordan is they say we're drinking water that's thousands of years old. It comes down from Canada, and the Jordan is 200 foot deep there, and then by the time it gets to us, we're 2,500 foot deep. See, so it kind of, you never can tell, and the veins feed it, and we've always had very consistent, the static level there, and then we start a well up, and it draws the water level down. We've had consistent what we call drawdowns which is required by the DNR to report a drawdown. So, they know what the waters of Iowa, how they stand, and the Jordan Aquifer is a very big aquifer that a lot of people are tapped into. So it's just something where we had a little fluctuation and we were okay, and now we're trending down. So we're going to have to, and we've got room to go down and the aquifer, plenty of room, but it's just one of those. We're going to go down and hopefully this silliness stops, but if not, then we will have
So
to.
is there a threshold point that says we're not?
Well, once you, Mason City had a couple times where they started up and it wouldn't run their wells. They had to go, they have a sharing program. We've talked to Warren Rural Water, because they would like to have a sharing program with us also. And it's something we might have to investigate even more and see if we can't possibly help each other if it comes. Warren Water obviously gets their water from Des Moines. Similar to Norwalk, Ankeny, several communities around. So
And they haven't had problems?
because they're the river, they have the rivers deep enough, and they have both rivers are pulling off of. They've had a lot of turbidity and a lot of things that they fought, but they get the big rains up north, and it kind of refills things, whereas we're definitely in I don't know if we're still in a severe drought, but we're right there in this area. So. But that's something I'll be reporting back on, see if, we can get it stabilized and maybe come back up. There's a few months that it came up and then went back down. So it's something very unusual for the Jordan. We've been years and years with our pump set at the same depth and been fine. And now it's something that's, especially in the central part of the state, that they've noticed that. Most of your bigger cities, are built, people needed water north of 5. So most older, bigger cities are built by a river. Your Dubuque, your Des Moines, almost the older cities in, Council Bluffs. So they draw off where they can live water. So they're surface water. It's us, the cities like us, they're so far away from any water consistent that we have to sink wells. For years and years and years, we had shallow wells and we were fine. And then in the 60s, we noticed that we were running out of water. So that's when we dropped our first well in, and then, in the 70s and the 90s.
How deep are our wells?
We're right about a half mile deep. We're down. The Jordan's, 2,500 foot, 5,200 feet a mile. So it's right at 2,600 feet. Right there is where we're hitting the Jordan, and we got an area to go, through it. And but our pump settings only 450 feet down, and the water comes up our well casing and feeds it fine, but now we're, like I say, we're noticing that static level is dropping on us, and we want to have at least 60 foot over the top of the pump and the motor when we are running it, and we're down about 40 feet now. So, and that's just in the well 12, 10 and 11 and 9, we have 4 wells. We had 8 shallow wells, and then those have been abandoned. Now we have the 4 big wells. 9, 10, 11 haven't shown as much of but the drop is 12, but 12 pumps the most water. It's our biggest, newest well, so it's not recovering like it used to. So anyway, that's something that once we get a plan finalized, I'll get back to you and see just what it. We're scheduled to take 12 down anyway. Every 5-6 years, I like to take them down and scrub them, clean them. Just that's standard operating procedure. So what we'll probably have to do is take it down a year early, and then shift 9 back, because I had 9 set up, shift it back, put 12 in there, and then do 9 later. But that's just one of those.
Is 11 the one we just worked on?
Yep, 11's the one that it had well, we felt it was a lightning strike, and it's out there. We have protection for it, but when they're fine one day and you have a storm the next day, and they pulled it up and it was fried, so it just ground right to it. That's the disadvantage of those wells with the submersible type. So, but otherwise, we're hoping for a much better week. Also, West Boston on that project, they're having a great run on the sewer installation, and they're going to hopefully get that done on the 600, 700, 800 block of West Boston on that American Recovery Money project that we have with the city. Thursday afternoon or Friday, want to start laying water main there and get that to F Street and see how, we get that. They do have the street poured up halfway, and then now they got a poor driveway approach and stuff, so it won't be open. But we'll get all the water main laid here, hopefully this fall.
Were any of the breaks you had last weekend, had they been in trouble spots or?
Nope.
The first?
Nope. And then the one on 10th Street, had one main break there, and then this one, they dug it up, and then they had put a clamp on, started up, and then another broke. So dug it back up again, and we were there for, and it rained the whole time. It
The only
was a
maybe had rain
rainy.
in a month.
Yeah, they're gonna get wet anyway, that's what they say, but it was a rainy day into the late evening. So that's all I have.
Okay. Moving on to the fiber financing results presentation.
Alrighty, this is where Mike Maloney will take over. And Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I am, folks. If I'm too loud or not loud enough, just let me know. I have the presentation that was in your packet over the weekend. I'm not planning to hit every line item. This is in reference to your next 3 agenda items, B, C, D under number 9. And the reason there are 3 proceedings for 2 series is the opportunity to refinance the old telecom debt gave us a fresh security slate. And with the possibility of using state or federal dollars on a go-forward basis, like we're doing with the NOFA grant funding here, using a master issuance resolution is going to allow the utility to be nimble in the future. That'll be the first resolution approved, and then you'll have separate series resolutions for 22A and B after that. As noted, I'm going to start, I think it's page 28 of your packet, but it's labeled number 2, the financing plan overview, kind of rehashing what we've talked about previously. I had to kind of draw a line in the sand at some point to finalize numbers and details. And I noted that the current rate resets on the 17A and B would be 5.61 and 6.61 as the end of August. I checked on that today, and it actually be close to 6 and 7% respectively. So while I was particularly pleased with the performance when I reported to you last month, the increasing rates, not just for the resets, but our alternatives of being in the market this week means we really took advantage of having a bird in hand at the end of last month, and I want to make sure that was pointed out today. Slide 3 is the sources and uses. I know a couple board members had asked for. I'd sent that offline before the last board meeting in preliminary form, but want to make sure that was clarified for everyone's purposes. To Adam's question at the last board meeting, I would simply note that the issuance costs are about $50,000 less than estimated due to the fact we were going with the bank loans versus the bond market overall. While the sources and uses are helpful, and I know we had an eye on what our total borrowing amount would be, mindful of the not to exceed amount previously, I think it's very important to follow through with the actual debt service tables on the following pages. This is just a showing your work element. Adam, you'd asked something specifically, but obviously you or any other board members, any other details on this that I can provide? I want to just make sure I covered any of the questions from previous meetings.
Probably for staff. So I see the project funds are $1,774,000, and that had been $1,600,000. Do we have the bids back on that, or what's the status?
We, yeah, we do not.
They're getting ready to be posted here next week or 2. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's still an estimate.
Still an estimate.
But it was 1.6.
We added some more equipment as we were going through. We added some more equipment. There was going to be upgrades to our Des Moines connection equipment that we would have done subsequently. But as we were here and the finances worked, we decided to, since we were going to save the money, be able to do those upgrades and operate on the same piece of equipment mirrored for our backups. So we did add one other piece of, the core routing equipment.
Yeah, we've got some active switches and stuff like that. We're going to add into the system.
So that added another 174,000.
But it's way budgeted for, so.
On slide 4, I really wanted to point out today, this is really great news in terms of the performance, but it's even better news to keep this continuing to be a local project. So with True Bank and People's Bank stepping up once again, I want to make that point here publicly and for the board. I think it's a really big deal to see this. And I know both of those institutions have a long history with these projects that date back well before the 2017 kind of startup financing for the owner operated piece. So that was a real big point I wanted to lay out. The other item, which we talked about before, but I wanted to explicitly state again here, is while we're refinancing the 2017A term, that repayment will stay the same, balance of 10 years, and the new project work will extend out 12 years. So there's no change of the existing term of debt. It's just that the accommodation for the new projects will be paid over a 12-year term. All utility debt will be paid off over the next 12 years under these scenarios. While the rate's really favorable here, you still have the ability to prepay these after 6 years if it's advantageous or if there's a need to do so for that portion. Don't know if there's anything else other than show your work on the balance of this slide and slide 5 on the 22B, which is simply the taxable issuance, higher interest rate reflecting that, solely refinancing, same 6-year par call, those dates line up. Slide 6, again, is I think the important part as we talk about the annual debt service, just breaking that out by series to demonstrate how that'll be repaid over time. I think this is a useful slide, but I think the summary on slide 7 really helps at the bottom of the page, noting that even though we're adding the Pella transmission line, this is only an increase in the annual debt payment, $50,000 versus a quote unquote best case, which is really not realistic at this point. It's actually a decrease on the current projected rate resets for 2017 A and B. And that $75,000 was based on last month's numbers. We don't know where interest rates are going, but this is effectively saving probably over $100,000 a year under where we'd project that to be. That being said, like I drew that line in the sand at the end of last month just to navigate the projected savings. We target for at least 3% present value savings. It's the most conservative metric. We're looking at about $551,000 of present value savings, which is over 6%. So more than double kind of the standard for moving forward. And again, we continue to be in a rising interest rate environment there. So overall, very favorable. I've shared a little bit this board before, but just wanted to kind of show the work. I'll wrap up here by simply noting that tonight's action will be the final steps that the board will take to finish all this work. We've got all the paperwork drafted and completed. The remaining step will simply be closing and delivery of funds. My team's working with the lenders for redemption. We have that worked out and we'll get final notice on everything out in the next week or so. Chris, I'll be working with you to finish that up later this week. If there's anything else from the staff and board, happy to answer any questions. I know I pointed out a little bit last meeting, but I want to just echo again. The staff have been extremely responsive here. We've done a lot of work on this, and I just want to really note that fact. The reason we were able to get such good terms is because we had good information for lenders and really were able to show our work. So my hat's off to Chris, Kurt, and Chris on all their work on this one as well.
I'd echo that as well. Where do we, on the last note where we were bringing the funds into our accounts, where will we track that at? Where would we see?
I don't know specifically where that'll show up in yours. That'll of course be in those cash fund balances. We're going to track that specifically, opening up a construction checking account. So we'll have those both as a line item in our budget of construction related costs, and we'll mirror those or take draws out of those as we directly out of the new checking account that will
So I'm
track
going
the
to
funds.
just repeat what I think you told me. We'll have it as a separate account and we'll be able to watch the draws on that to make sure that we line up with what we think it should be.
Yeah, I mean, and I know we've just reported fund cash, so I don't know that you see the specific, like we got a Baker's Trust. I don't know that there's any reports where you see the institutions on which it's divided up. So it might be tough to see from what you see now, but we'll be tracking it through an individual account.
Okay. Other questions for Mike or Chris or any of the staff?
Just a comment more than anything. I applaud staff and Mike, working with the two local banks. That's great. The True Bank and People's Bank are stepping up. I'm pleased to see that. And not a question mark, but can you give a little background on Truist Bank? What's the relationship there? How did we select them?
Yeah, so Truist, maybe the thing you might see, you'll see them on advertising for pro sports. They're actually the title sponsor for the Atlanta Braves Stadium. And it was the result of a recent merger between BB&T and SunTrust, which were large commercial banks in the Southeast United States. We've had relationships with kind of the pre-existing companies and have done work. I'll be honest with you, I've chased Truist to do telecom projects for some time. I know they've done them elsewhere in the US. Some of that's been positive, some not so much. This was actually the first credit in Iowa because we have some unique laws that they were willing to get the finish line on. Spent a lot of time, even dating back to 2017 with the original startup financing, working with those folks. And while we'll do business with them occasionally, this was a big hurdle to clear. So it was very exciting that they were willing to move forward with the credit and help push the ball forward in terms of some really favorable terms for the utility. So we're able to leverage that. And then again, best of all worlds by having the local participation on the tax exempt series, Adam.
Thank you.
Other questions? So do we want to move on to the motion? The resolution?
I don't know, Chris or Mike, can you just walk us through? I think I understand the motions for C and D, but help us on what B is.
Yep. So Adam, B is what's called a master resolution. So the concept of this is to set up a standard framework for issuing different types of debt instruments over time. Typically for Iowa kind of general government, whether it's city, county, or municipal utilities, we might use a standard authorizing resolution. It's going to look a lot more like the series resolutions you'll be adopting in C and D. The benefit of the master resolution is when you're going to be dealing with various other types of lenders that may be quote unquote non-traditional. So whether that's a state program, like a state revolving fund program, or more likely a federal program, whether that's through USDA or something like WIFIA or SWIFIA on water and wastewater needs. Those programs may typically require you to have a master resolution framework. And as we think about the mid to long run projections for the Indianola telecom utility, you guys might expand your service territory like you're going through with some of the NOFA funding now. Well, we don't know exactly what other financing mechanisms might be out there. This is kind of that bite at the apple where we're going to be beholden to our loan document structure for the next 6 years till the call date on these notes. And we want to maintain and maximize flexibility for that future issuance if we were to leverage those programs. So this is just a step in that direction to create that master framework for any future issues. And then we're following that master framework with the series specific resolutions in C and D, the same way we would follow up with those series specific resolutions, any future issuance for the telecom utility going forward.
Thank you.
So we need a first and second motion on the resolution providing for the issuance and securing the payment of future obligations for the purposes of borrowing money for the Indianola municipal utilities. Are there other questions, comments, concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jackie, would take roll call, please.
Board Member Selgrade,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Boyce.
Yes.
motion approved. And then on 9C, we have the motion on the series resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement and providing for the issuance of communications, revenue, and refunding notes, Series 2022A, and other documents related to the notes. Discussion, concerns, questions on this? If not, I need a first and second on.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jackie, will you take roll call, please?
Board Member Selgrade,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion approved. Nine is the never ending event tonight. The next is the motion on the series resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement and providing for the issuance of taxable communications revenue refunding notes, series 2022B, and other documents relating to the notes. Discussion on this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jackie, would take roll call.
Board Member Selgrade,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I want to thank you all for the opportunity again, serve the utility and just not just the fiber project, but a few of the additional items you've got on the agenda. Really exciting times for the utility and the community. And just as an outsider that deals with a lot of boards, this is great stuff. So just wanted to pass that out along from the guy out of town. Thank you, everybody.
I would also say, Mike, thanks for your creativity on helping us pull together the funding.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure. Thanks, folks. Chris and Chris, I'll be in touch later this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, moving on to 9E. We need a first and second motion on a resolution setting a public hearing and letting dates for the fiber 2022 NOFA 7 Phase 1 project.
Second.
Oh, Kurt's got some discussion.
Oh, you got discussion. Oh, we're on a roll. We're on a roll. Sorry.
This is, we've talked about this before. This is phase 1 of the NOVA project. So it's the road crossings up north by the new water plant or wastewater plant. And then our main line down to the county building down by the quality. So we're just finishing up engineering plans today, last few weeks. Expect to post that bid back on Thursday. Due back October 5th. We'll take a look at that and then bring it to you all on the 10th for approval. Hopefully we'll get some good bids again coming in. So this is just a public hearing for that, so we can take care of all that too. So.
Okay. Now I will take the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, would take roll call, please.
Board Member Smith,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Selgrade,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Approved. 9F is first and second motion on the approval of the certificate of final completion of the fiber network extension to the water resource recovery facility project and the issuance of a handwritten warrant for $29,547.65 to Murphy Tower Services.
Yeah, this is that first phase 0 of that north project. That's the one we started this spring. It took us a little longer to get this completed just because things slowed down a bit up there, getting that facility done. So normally we would just wait for the next paper to pay Murphy, but they've been very, very patient. So I was hoping we could get a check out to them this week. So fiber's been tested, engineers looked at it, everything came back just fine. So we're in good shape.
Is there any change that we're holding back?
No, that will be done. So.
Other questions for Kurt? A motion.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, you want to take roll call, please?
Just a moment. Board Member Smith,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Selgrade,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Okay, moving ahead to item 10, communication utility items.
Yeah, quickly, fiber repair has been completed at Boston and T, so that fiber is back to the normal state and in good shape again. So we had a first meeting with folks from the OCIO. Those are the folks that are managing the NOFA 7 grants for the state. That went well. We had an hour-long meeting scheduled, only took about 30 minutes. We went over procedures, documentation, stuff like that. Being a government facility or organization, we do things exactly the way they want. So they were very happy to see that. So we're ready to begin doing some building at this point. So we'll get some stuff out and see if we can get some funds coming in from them for that. So they did mention though on their discussions with other folks, there had been a lot of concern from other providers on budgeting material. I told them we had good bids come in on our spring project, and we would let them know how our fall one came out here in a couple of weeks. But they are starting to see some pushback on just cost of material and things like that too, and then just timing too. So from what I was getting from them, it might be interesting to see in a year or two if we
get a little extension of that project, but we'll see how it all turns out. But right now, we're on schedule, so I don't expect to need it, so. We had a booth up at RDTV on Friday for about 4 hours across from West Hill. It was nice to get out and talk to people, signed a few people up for site surveys and handed out a bunch of footballs and key rings and stuff like that. So we'll also be at homecoming parade here in a couple weeks and plan on going to the library's trunk retreat there at the end of October. So we'll get out a couple more times yet this fall. So September continues to be busy. As I told you last time, we're down at Tech, but we still have 56 installs booked for this month and 12 site surveys scheduled for this week. So what's left of this month will fill up. And Mike's not here, but we are currently looking at the week of September 26th. We're right at 2 weeks right now. We're going to fall a little bit behind here in the next week or two, but we made it to October without getting too far. So we'll be good and hopefully get Jeremy back here mid-October. So.
Moving ahead, then we're on to the combined electric, water, and communication items.
Righty, Rocky, are you on?
I am, Chris.
All right, perfect. I'll kind of kick this off. The next two items, I'll talk about those together, and certainly, I guess, as we go through, I just want to kind of advise or recommend if you vote yes on one, you should vote yes on the other. Likewise, if you vote no on one or have concerns with one, you should also vote no on the other. We don't want to have one get approved or not get approved. So consider them one action, although they're two separate contracts we will consider. And I think this goes back to almost a year ago. Me issued an RFP for a solar project for some interested parties. It was a combined effort. Idea was to save a little money by offering a company a single large bid. This one actually increased afterwards. As you'll recall, Sand Hill offered this. They were awarded. They were awarded the original bid and continue to offer those to everyone else. This bid was substantially less than we were expecting, and so while we weren't initially interested with the expectation of 5.5 and 6 cent kilowatt electricity, when this came back and it was the sub $40 a megawatt price that was offered, it reached all of our thresholds for consideration. It became the short explanation here is this is nearly a direct replacement for our conventional methods. While it should save us money in the future, and we're anticipating all of our cash outlays will be refunded in about 6 to 7 years. It is a small amount one way or another. I mean, it's not a huge financial home run or it's not a huge financial cost. So it is a good replacement, and that's why we moved forward with it. Throughout this project, I do have, Mike was instrumental in helping. He worked with Rocky and Sand Hills to change that secondary voltage, which will decrease cost, and more specifically than decreasing the cash outlay, which means we will be able to use equipment that we already have in inventory rather than buying specialty backup equipment. In these contracts, we are required to have a 99% uptime for our equipment, and we will lay out cost of $135,000. Again, that has about a 6 to 7 year payback under some conservative terms. IMU doesn't have any maintenance obligations beyond our transformers. So as we talk about our distribution infrastructure, the transformers at those transformers connecting to the Sand Hills or SE Municipal LLC's equipment, that's where we hand off responsibility. So all the in-house infrastructure that will all be on Sand Hills no additional staff is required to maintain this or no additional effort. That'll all be our Rockies company that handles all that. It is a little over 4 megawatt project. It is the maximum size that we can have under our mean with our mean wholesale contract. That 4 megawatts is the behind the meter limit. So this is the biggest project that we can consider.
So Chris, are there other sizes that mean allows for other territories?
We could have elected to put a 2 megawatt in place of this. We couldn't exceed the 4. 4 is our contractual limit. But if we were only interested in 2, we could have, or had space for 2, we could have selected a smaller
But
size.
is 4 the max that mean allows for anyone or just us?
It is for us, it's the maximum because that is 5% of our annualized demand.
Okay, there was a try to direct that.
So the contract has gone through several rounds of negotiation. And we did talk in our closed session about some of these terms. I think Ben provided his input. The short answer is no contract is without risks, but our attorneys have reviewed these documents and I think they adequately protect IMU's interest. Again, I wanted to reiterate that they're 2 separate action items, but consider them themselves. You got concern on one, vote no to both of them. If you're happy with both of them, do so. So again, kind of to wrap up the purchase power agreement, we are required to purchase all the power that is coming out of this facility. The first year rate is $39.90 per megawatt hour, or kind of down to our retail rate. That's 3.99 cents per kilowatt hour. Important consideration while we're not doing anything with these right now. IMU retains the environmental attributes. So if we ever have a customer that comes in that needs 100% renewable power, we do have the right to offer that, and this could be considered if we can use this power to satisfy somebody that comes in that has those special needs. And so that'll probably not important now, but that could be meaningful in the future. The second contract is the land lease, and the land is.
So just,
Go ahead.
sorry, just on that, it might be something for builders. Are we making the city council aware of that so that they can pass that around to the city for any potential developers?
We haven't yet, and that's kind of there's a twofold approach on that. We'll have those environmental renewable contracts, and as well as we're renegotiating how we do those renewables on the main side. Both those 2 items will be, once we decide as a board how we're going forward, we'll be able to share how much and what that means to a potential developer.
I
We'll have that.
actually had a similar thought or question, was just the communication strategy around all of this. I mean, this is significant, and it feels like we need to be able to involve the city from a development standpoint, but even just from a notoriety that we're moving to solar, as much of an interest as there's been.
I had the same thought. I was thinking we'd have a press release on that.
We will, if this goes through, I have a meeting for a press release tomorrow.
In other words, we're jumping ahead.
Okay, all right.
I'm not being presumptive, but I can always cancel that meeting if need be. Yeah. So is there any other,
Keep going with your summary of the contracts.
okay,
Yeah.
the second contract is a land lease, and the land, our existing land, we're not purchasing any new, surrounding our water plant on South K. There is enough room to allow for any needed expansion. Lou's got to put another well in, or hope
It won't
not.
be there, but we are going to probably need to expand because the DNR is making us put in backup generation So we're gonna have to
And you'll
have,
have plenty of space to do that.
we'll have plenty of space to do that. Yeah, the map showed what's available and what's not, what we need. And like I say,
Yeah, so the, you'll notice in the packet, the legal description on Exhibit A is not complete. However, our attorney is comfortable with you guys approving the contract and giving myself and our attorney the approval of that attachment A, which will be the legal description. That will be some work because we kind of gotta, I mean, it's gonna be a unique shaped parcel where we're gonna allow construction and not.
It's just a portion of the water site. The
It is a
parcel
portion, but
is-
it's all zigzaggy. It's like our electric picture. A little bit in here, a little bit out there.
So it's not the whole water property site, it's just the part that they're gonna
yeah,
put stuff on.
yeah, actually the tillable and maybe
Yeah.
get into the tree groves, which.
Yeah, so it will be kind of unique shaped and probably gonna be a little bit of work. Because we are putting 12-foot, there's water pipes and large water facilities there. We want to make sure we've got 12 feet on each side of those in case something bad should happen there. So as we motion or move this, my recommendation or consideration would be subject to the attorney and I working out Exhibit A with the legal description. And the only other point, this is a 25-year term, and the lease is cancelable by either party. It's renewable for 2 5-year terms after that. It's cancelable by either party with 30 days notice in those renewable or renewal extension sections.
So no, I have no more questions on the contracts. I feel like those have probably been come through, but in addition to the communication strategy, have we talked to the tenants to let them know? I know we've had some conversation about this over time, that the land won't be available to them as on whatever time frame.
I don't know that we've given them the official notice yet, but yeah, we certainly intend to after we have this
I
contract
think that'll
locked
be
up.
important. That's
Yeah.
part of the communication. I think that'll be a
Yep,
really
yep.
important piece.
And it's still, like I say, I told Brandon that, I will let you know as soon as I know. And then as soon as I knew that they weren't gonna do it earlier, he was able to get this crop in and he's got some line he's taking for his fields now. So he's got that going there too.
So he's been a good tenant. It's just a
Oh,
matter
yes,
of
very much so.
keeping him in the loop on what's available or not when it happens. I'd hate for him to see this announcement and then we didn't reach out to him.
Right, I mean, absolutely. Well, definitely be in touch. I talked to him 3 times last week on different things, so yeah, no problem.
So that's kind of my high points. If you guys have any questions, I got Rocky on here. I think, where I just wanted to move the conversation on to now is if this is approved, what the time frame looks like. If you guys don't have any questions, I'll turn it over to Rocky. Comments, concerns, thoughts? All right. Rocky, what do you have to follow up? What does the time frame look like if this contract's approved?
So at this point, Chris, our plan is, most likely to be breaking ground in June of 2023 with our commercial operations date being December, the targeted commercial operations date is December 31st of 2023. But I feel pretty confident that things will move at a little bit quicker pace now that supply chain, we really put that date out there because we set it, 3 or 4 months ago and we were still really in the heat of the supply chain crisis, I guess. But we've already seen a lot of that relax. So, and I think, I can't give Mike enough credit on his persistence on the 480 volt transformers, but that really cut the lead time down on the overall project completion because procuring a 600 volt transformer on the secondary side is kind of a one-off in the United States anyway. And so that dramatically cut down the lead time. So I guess in short, what I would say is conservatively, we plan to be breaking ground June of 2023 and we'd probably have your project complete, several months after that. I would expect by like the fall.
Questions for Rocky?
Who's the manufacturer of the solar panels you guys use? I know there was a company out there that just recently got in trouble.
I'm not, I mean, in trouble for what? I'm not familiar with them.
Their solar panels just weren't producing. I can't remember exactly the company. It was about 2 weeks ago that I read the article on it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that, you know, but what I can tell you is we're using First Solar modules. First Solar is by a magnitude the largest U.S. manufacturing facility. They have about 8 gigawatts of capacity here in the United States. They also have some overseas capacity, and they announced with the recent Inflation Reduction Act that they're going to more than double their U.S. manufacturing capacity. First Solar, what's unique about First Solar is they're a thin film technology. So it's in a lot of ways a superior technology to what, you know, is you'd commonly see around Iowa in the past. So before we used silicon-based PV, and that's a fine product. Like it has good longevity and everything, but it has a higher degradation rate than the thin film technology. And it also doesn't have as long of a warranty. So First Solar has the industry leading degradation rate of 0.3% annually is what they'll warrant that at. And they have all sorts of special requirements to ensure their modules, you know, perform at their peak. So the whole system's really designed around that PV module, but it's a glass on glass module, like extremely robust, just really excellent for this region. The other benefit that it provides is a higher shade tolerance. So unlike silicon-based PV, where if you shade, you know, a part of the module, you lose a disproportionate amount. So say like if you shade the bottom 10% of a silicon-based PV module, you'll actually lose the entire module's production. With First Solar, they have that patented technology that does like linear shading losses. So if you shade 10%, you just lose 10%. So it's an excellent product. If you wanted to take the time to do a quick Google search on First Solar, you'd find really fantastic reviews on them. The only issue with First Solar is their inability to keep up with the demand for their product right now. But we have a long-term procurement relationship with them, so we're sitting in a very good, unique spot to be able to offer their product.
All right, great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
Just going back to what we were talking about before, hypothetically, if we do approve tonight, can you talk through what the plan would be to share this with the community?
I don't have everything vetted out, but you know, throughout the construction process, we certainly will start tomorrow with the press release. You know, items like ribbon cuttings and a little bit more publicity around there. You know, we talked about those in similar concepts, really kind of driving around that groundbreaking. So clear your calendars for June of 23. We're expecting that, and I think coming out of that, we'll have some one-off. You know, I think this is an exciting time. You know, tonight we approved a lot of big items. You know, our work with Bella and solar. I think these are 2 items that are tremendous benefit to the community. The solar really is, you know, I think it's something everyone had demanded. We're looking forward to kind of explaining that. This will be the subject of some of our new flyer discussions, and I think as this construction progresses, this project will be able to showcase this project in a number of ways, both, you know, internally in the community as well as outside.
Are you working with John Ian on the press release?
Yeah. We'll meet with that tomorrow, and we'll finish up some items about.
Is this something that's worth sharing with some of the service clubs, Rotary, Lions Club?
Yeah, I mean, the sustainability committee, certainly, you know, Bill Howard's been here a number of times. He's very excited about that. In my discussions with the sustainability committee, they're ready to take off with it. So, my first direction or first hope is to kind of give them the good news. And I think from there, they kind of have an idea of where they want to get it out to. And I think some of the service clubs are certainly in those, and we'll have that kind of promotion and growth.
And I don't mean to diminish the project with Pella, but it's critically important, but you're not gonna see it, and the community's not gonna notice it. This solar project is very different, and I think we need to do all we can to make a big splash and share the great things that we're doing.
Absolutely.
The only thing I would say about the Pella piece is the confidence that community lenders have in us to
Oh,
be
yeah.
able
Yeah.
to do that kind of a project. I mean, it's not the highlight like solar, but I do think there's some relevant storyline behind it. Okay, other questions or comments, discussion before we move to vote? Okay, I'll need a first and second motion for the approval of a purchase power agreement with Southeast Municipal Iowa LLC. Just, I guess, maybe discussion.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I remember one more question. So you've always talked about Sand Hills, but this is a separate LLC. Can either you or Rocky just explain the LLC? Is it just, are they doing the same LLC with any of the Iowa clients, or how does that work?
So this is going to be operated in 3 different states, and they created a LLC for each state contract. And so that's what it's, Sand Hills Energy, the SE Municipal Iowa LLC. There's a Nebraska and Colorado version. Rocky, did I cover that? Is there any other?
Yeah, Chris, that's actually, yeah, that covers it. There's some like nitty gritty details of how the USDA, who's the lender, approaches things, and they really want it broken up on a state level. So that's really what drives that. And there's another incentive through the USDA too that all but requires that it be a separate entity in each state.
And is Sand Hills Energy then the owner of the SE Municipal Iowa LLC?
Yeah, so it's SE Holdings which is a component of Sand Hills Energy. So Sand Hills Energy Holdings is where all of our solar assets are housed. And you're correct that is the parent company to the 3 or the, I guess, 4 entities if Wyoming hops on now.
Sorry, Larry.
Good catch. Okay. I'm going to correct my statement here. We need a first and second motion for the approval of the purchase power agreement with Sand Hill Energy Municipal Iowa LLC. Take a first and second motion. Jackie, would take roll call, please?
Board Member Smith,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Selgrade,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Approved. And then, as Chris mentioned, the next item is really a joint approval. We need a first and second motion for the approval of a lease and easement agreement for solar energy system.
Subject to giving me the authority to complete.
Add the legal language for the land, right?
So moved.
Second. Jackie, will you take roll call, please?
Board Member White,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Selgrade.
Yes.
Motion approved. Just making myself a note about the legal description. Okay. Any other combined electric, utility, water, and communication items? Is that enough? I'll let you anything from your corner of the world is pretty quiet over there tonight. All right, I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session with accordance of Iowa Code Section 388.9 to discuss marketing and pricing strategies and proprietary information in the telecom division whose competitive position will be harmed by public disclosure that is not required for potential or actual competitors and no public purpose is served by such disclosure. So moved.
Second.
Jackie, will you take roll call, please?
Board Member Smith,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Cellgrade,
Yes.
White.
Yes. Okay, just a note to the staff. We've had 2 outside entities tonight call out what great work you've done. Thank you for that, and thanks for being committed to these activities. This is in the hallway, so she's not getting this, so you can pass that on to her, but thank you for representing us so well. Have a great night.
Second that.